Go.
Oh, are we live?
Yes.
All right.
Good.
Let's do the check real quick here. Why don't I have video? I like to watch the questions and stuff.
We have sound. We have color.
Channel feed. I got nothing.
Do I need to show you how to internet?
Yeah. Wait. Where's our chat? There's the chat. All right. Tyler and Tim. Okay, so I think we're good. I just wanted to. Sound is good. Have you guys noticed that like Twitch is way behind now? There's a huge buffer. Like it used to be shorter.
I guess YouTube's even farther behind.
Yeah, like I was streaming during the week, and I was like, "Geez, this is almost like a minute behind."
Inkheart says, "You got this, Tyler. I believe in you." What about Tim's chopped liver?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yes. Okay. Let's get the ball rolling here. I want to try and cover a couple of different things.
Only two?
Yeah. God, you and Mark. Several different things. Usually at this time on a Friday, I'm parsing the words to write the update. We've got the top 10. Sometimes we've got user stories on top of that. There's a lot of things to communicate. And over literally the last hour, I've been trying to put a lot of thoughts together because I think I mentioned in last week's update, George had said to me, and I quoted, cross dependencies everywhere. In terms of the tech coming in and the testing that we've been doing, whether it's been internal or external, that still has kind of continued into this week, but it's cool because I get to talk about where those dependencies lie, specifically in portaling, zone transition, seamless zone transitions, and updates to, or you can't sit there smiling and making faces.
I think he can. He is right now.
Bridge to cross dependencies.
A bridge to cross
dependencies.
Shorts.
So literally I'm trying to put the words together just like we are the tech. So the cool thing here is over the last few weeks, kind of at the start of this month, we started working on some portaling tech. That tech is primarily used for testing. Literally, you go up to the portal, you pop over to another zone. Doing so transports you to another physical different server. That's really cool tech for us to begin with, but we haven't stopped there. One of the things we want to do is create this big, expansive living world for our backers to fight over. I was going to say fight for. No, this is a PvP game. We want you guys fighting for this thing, but what we need to do is there's a lot of kind of tech that makes all of this happen. So we had the portaling tech, but we were stuck with like some bugs and some issues, some deadlocks in terrain generation that were keeping us from going wider with the testing on that. So in lieu of that, we went with crafting testing 2 weeks back.
We did last week, I think. Right?
Last weekend. Yeah. Because what we knew this week is we were going to have a couple of big changes coming in, and anyone who's in software development knows sometimes you need to kind of save off a build if you want to test it so you know what changes, where bugs are coming from. Two of those big changes that were coming in, the first one was actually started from George, taken over by Brad. This was updating our terrain generation system to use George's threading library. To put that in layman's terms, as Tim often does for me, that basically takes a 1-lane highway and makes it say a 4-lane highway. This got rid of over a dozen deadlocks and potential crashes that we were seeing in the terrain system. Some of those deadlocks we were seeing when we were doing the portaling testing. So this week we dropped in this huge change, and this change actually paves the road for the next step with the terrain, which is showing realm ownership over the terrain. Where, for anybody who's unfamiliar, if let's say you're the Arthurians and you've got a keep, some kind of control point that is set up, and it is lost and the TDD take it over, the visuals, the terrain around you changes to look like the TDD own it. This is a huge tech hurdle, and obviously is quite a bit of work on the art side as well. So that change went in. Along with that, we got a really cool one in, which was the first pass of seamless zone transitions from Colin. Why are you smirking? What?
Nothing.
Am I repeating myself?
No.
You're just trying to make it harder on me?
Focus.
Yeah.
Focus.
This is why I pick him to come and sit with me to do this. It's more fun. The seamless zone transition tech is really cool. And maybe I should just let Tim talk about it. Is that what you're laughing at? That I said you should talk? Well, I said you should jump in.
Tyler's like, all right, Tim, I'm going to let you do the first two things and then talks for 30 minutes.
All right. Talk about how cool it is.
Okay. So taking one step back on the terrain parallel multi-threading stuff. As Tyler said, that's in anticipation of doing this zone control stuff so that, you know, you get cool Tuatha-looking trees and rocks and grass and shrubs when the Tuatha control it, and cool Viking stuff when the Viking control it, and all that. That's the goal. And we turned some of this on back, gosh, a year ago?
Yeah, it was a really quick...
Yeah, and so we got it in sort of as a proof of concept, and it worked, but it was kind of hitchy and didn't perform real great. So that's sort of where we're going, is we want to bring that back alive, use a lot of the really cool threading tech that George and Brad have been working on, so that it's a lot smoother and feels more organic, more alive, more dynamic. So that's where we're going with that. But if you guys saw it last year, the goal is to, again, resurrect that and make it smoother and shinier. We've been working on, I think we mentioned the 7 islands. Did we mention 7 islands once or
We
twice?
have. I don't think I've said the word 7 yet.
Okay. We've been doing internally in the office some testing with 7 different islands all glommed together to form one huge world. And we've been dealing with just solving any of the tech issues we've been bumping into with that. Recently, Colin landed this stuff we're calling seamless zone transitions, and I'll elaborate on what that means and what your expectations are for that in the very short term. But just testing that got us down to 2 islands, and we got a bunch of bug fixes in from Brad and George and some other folks that got us to a point where that was feeling really, really good. So hopefully we're going to be testing that this week, and barring anything catastrophic happening. Why that's really, really cool is it allows us to chop up the world in ways that aren't visible to you guys, but allow us to scale to meet a dynamic demand, such that if you happen to be one of those folks that plays on crazy hours, our server can sort of dial itself down and save us money and chill out, and then when everybody starts getting on prime time, it grows to demand, and so we can chop up the world in ways that are hopefully invisible to you to allow us to do a lot of this cool tech, so that the server is just as powerful as we need it to be when we need it to be. So the seamless transition stuff is the first pass at that, and basically allows you to go from one zone to the next with no loading screens. Your character gets transferred between servers. All of that happens mostly seamlessly. So this is where we set expectations. We landed this week. It's still a little bit rough. So you may or may not see a very, very brief loading screen. We're still knocking some of those out. But even that, it's incredibly brief, and the tech itself is really, really cool. We've had folks all week just running back and forth between the islands, and it's really cool to see just the invisible
to illustrate
transition.
very clearly, it's just 2 small islands with a little bridge between it, and there's a trigger offset on either side. So as you cross, this trigger doesn't exist because you're not actually on that zone, and you cross over and you literally go to a different physical server and then can just turn around and go back to the other one.
So there's literally like 2 computers running in the cloud. One of them is running the East Island, and one of them is running the West Island.
I'm so tempted to say, tell me more about this cloud.
The cloud, the butt. And so when you run across this bridge, we literally transfer your data from one computer to the other computer, and your client is none the wiser about that. It's still a little bit rough, but it's getting there, and it's super exciting. And if you're not excited about it, then you just don't know enough about it.
So then maybe we should just say all this again.
Outside of that, just because, again, setting expectations for the test this weekend, what we don't have yet is you can't have one person standing on East Island and smack a dude standing on West Island. You can see him, you can click on him, I think you can target him, all of that works, but you just can't interact with him yet. That's coming, but we're not there yet. So right now it's about moving between the islands. One of the future steps is fighting between the islands. But even just moving between them is it's really exciting stuff that we're working on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really proud of what Colin's done with it.
If you think back just over the last several months, it's been like, okay, there's the other zone on a different computer. I can see it. I can see other players moving around on it. I think, could we fire at that time an arrow between them?
You could shoot an arrow over there. It just wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, and then we got to, jumping you back and forth real easily between them, and now we've got you literally just, right up against each other. It's kind of everything is just getting closer and closer, and so now that we've actually got the beginnings of that walking back and forth, there's a whole bunch of just game mechanics that need to be persistent between back and forth and knowledge of the two back and forth that just need more iteration on it. So it's really, really, really cool stuff, but hype aside, plenty to do still.
Yeah. And so, like, coming in the test notes, you'll see like some known issues, like your stances will reset when you go between islands because that's not transferring just yet. You can't hit folks across them. Projectiles might behave a little bit weird between them. So
I don't think they go across right now.
Yeah, we're not there yet. I mean, if we were there, we'd have a shipped game and everybody would be playing it and it would be awesome. So it is still a work in progress, but it's really cool stuff.
Okay, so we've talked enough about that. Let's move on. Oh, and the cool thing is that we've also got several other things. Not only does the just literally running around the world needs testing, but also I think JB touched something that you guys said touched everything.
Is that on here?
It's actually not on here, but I wanted. What I was doing was verbally layering this all together. That we've got a whole bunch of things that have been big projects working on. That as testing goes over the next couple of weeks, you guys will probably see some iteration of, go build on plots, go build on make abilities, go hit each other, craft some things. There's all these things are layering, and each time we add in a new feature, we kind of need to retest all those things, make sure everything still works.
JB, so what Tyler was talking about is JB did some work it's not on our list, but you guys don't have our list, so we could put it on our list and say it's on our list. JB did some work to...
You have a pen? Sorry.
Facilitate moving forward, exposing more data to you guys on the web API layer, so you can do cool queries about, like, give me information about my skill, or give me information about my items, or give me information about my character. And so to facilitate that, JB did some work that just moved a whole bunch of data and a whole bunch of stuff around that basically affected almost every aspect of, like, abilities and players and the world. So that has potential fallout in lots and lots of different places, but we've been testing it all week and it's gone really, really good, so that's been exciting too.
Yeah, I mean, I literally added
So moving forward, we'll start pushing more data out too, and there was some big discussions that happened about that yesterday and today about pushing more data out to you guys, so modders and website designers and guild masters and stuff like that can get data about stuff they care about and make really cool, like, web forms and UI mods.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this carefully, not saying that. I think we also did a big drop into review of the character inventory layout that's been in progress for a while.
Yeah, I've been watching the UI guys play around with that.
I haven't. I just realized the top 10-ish, which is at 12, needs to be probably the top 14. Okay, let's see. VFX improvements. Let's just keep moving because we're still on terrain. Last week's update. We talked about. I gave this great line about from George about all the different kind of pieces that it takes to get VFX on the screen and in a performant manner. Going to the OIT renderer made the. I don't want to quote this incorrectly. OIT got us a lot, and basically what it did is it illustrated the other parts of the pipeline that needed work.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the acronym, OIT stands for Order, Independence, Transparency.
Yeah, so this was a faster way for us to render particles. There's other parts to this, and doing so, like I said, illustrated the other parts we needed to hit. So this week we've just continued on that. We've got George put in a large change, or not a large change, I'll just say a change this week that paves the way for his next update, which should see a performance improvement. At the same time, Dave and Bull have been going at it from a different direction. So over the coming weeks, we'll start talking a little bit more and testing more performance increases on the VFX. And I think this was from last week on Hatch. We had the brute force VFX map. So we'll probably reuse that and just see what the performance changes are, get you guys to look at it, give us your DX diags, what cards you've got, what your frame rates are, et cetera, et cetera.
So there's basically lots of different folks attacking sort of the VFX problem from a bunch of different angles so that we can support both visual effects in the world and visual effects in combat simultaneously in a way that can support the scale of game we're making.
Yeah, and the cool thing is for anybody who's been following us for a while, we're really into the engine's performance because we have to be. The whole engine is built around these 500-player battles. So every time we do anything, we need to keep that in mind. So the VFX system needs to be able to have a 500-person battle with a whole lot of VFX going around. That's why we are constantly iterating on this. Encumbrance. You actually did the review for this. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So it's the encumbrance system is exactly what it sounds like. It allows us to apply modifiers to the player, to the character, based on stuff he's carrying, gear he's wearing. It's clever in that some of the gear you're wearing, like heavy armor, might have more encumbrance than light armor, and so that's some of the penalties of like, well, why wouldn't I just always wear heavy armor? There's drawbacks there. We're starting to feel that system come alive. It affects the mobility of your character. I think there's some attack speed ramifications, and so the way we built that is we sort of aggregate all your encumbrance, both from the weight of the items you're carrying around and from any encumbrance stats that are on the items themselves, and feed them into some scripts that Ben has control over, and so he can do whatever he wants in terms of how that affects your character, either positively or negatively. So that's all hooked up. We haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of testing on it because we've been working on a lot of this seamless stuff. But that's super exciting because that's been one of the parts of the item system that's just sort of been out there needing to be done for a long time. And so we can start making, like, differentiating between, the benefits and drawbacks of light, medium, and heavy armor.
And I noticed there's some really good questions actually that are already being posted. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not shopping on Amazon or anything. Just
hold that one.
Hold those to the end because there was some good questions in there. Yeah, and I also talked to Scott, who's in a different section of animation, but I said, let's start thinking about what we want to do for encumbrance so that when we get to like the low end of movement where you're totally burdened down and we're not just, we're always trying to look for ways that we're not typically with like encumbrance or a slow effect or something, we just play an animation slower. That's something very typical in games. And so what I've talked with briefly about Scott, and we've talked about in the past with Mark and Ben, is doing actual animations that befit that look so that not only can you tell that the player is really fully encumbered, but that he looks like he's actually fully encumbered versus us just making you look like you're walking.
So like trying to visualize the weight of the item.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between just walking slowly and
being heavy.
Oh, I've got this crap I'm carrying around. Let's see. Okay. Number 5, cross-office workflow improvements. So, as we mentioned last week, Andrew has been in Seattle working with the, he's actually been in Washington overall, in Seattle there, talking with the, Kirkland, the Washington team. Yeah, I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. With the guys over there, which has been really kind of a great mind share between what everyone's working on there and just Andrew helping the team in general. One of the things he's been looking towards is I think the server startup time for the remote team was 7 or 8 minutes. So one of his primary goals, which he hit this week, was to get that down. I think it's down to 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes.
All the guys out on the left coast are engineers, and most of them have been working on server tech for one thing or another. And the server startup time taking much longer for them than it does for us, because we use a lot of resources that are based here in Virginia, has been a pain point, an ongoing pain point for them. So now that we all got them into the office together and we got Andrew out there on site with them, there was a bunch of collaboration in terms of what can we do to, what's the best way we can spend our time and energy to improve their throughput, improve how long it takes the server to start up, which means they can work on bugs and tasks faster because they're not twiddling their thumbs for minutes every time they need to test some trivial piece of code or non-trivial piece of code, any piece of code.
Let's see, bots back to life. So for those of you, I'm going to give a quick preamble about bots. Bots are not, they're basically what we call, they're headless clients.
Yeah, but bots are headless clients. So a lot of times when people say bots, that you think of like NPCs or stuff like that. When we talk about bots, basically we're running full clients that just aren't rendering, so that from the perspective of the server, it's the same as having human players with real clients connected to our server, so that we can test things at scale. So they're not like NPCs that are running on the server. They're actual game clients that are running on their own computer, that are doing everything our game client would normally be doing. In fact, sometimes it does more.
Yeah.
Because the bots can do input faster than a human, so a lot of times, like, they'll get really, really aggressive about, like, trying to use skills and send requests to do skills faster than a human could. So a lot of times they're more stressful on our server than normal humans. So, when we say, hey, we put 500 bots on the server, it's actually closer to putting like 600 or 700 real players on the server. So it's one of our big testing instruments to make sure that our server can handle the load, that the things that are supposed to scale well scale, and for finding issues. Also, interestingly enough, because it behaves slightly different from a normal player, it's also sort of like testing a certain category of hacks against our server and making sure that we're secured and defensible against what's equivalently a modified client. So we haven't used those in a while. We've been focusing on a bunch of other stuff recently, and the bots have a tendency to sort of, the usage comes and goes on them, and if we don't use them for a while, they can sort of get dusty and not quite work right. So this last week we've been
Dusting them
off, knocking the mothballs off of them, and bringing them back to life. Looking towards getting some new improvements on them to use a bunch of the cool new ability, tech, and crafting stuff that we've been doing recently.
Sieges, arrows, everything that's kind of coming online. We need to make sure that they can actually hammer on that stuff as well. Okay, we get into art world. General, I actually stopped taking the work in progress off the top 10 for the environment work because it's kind of always going to keep on going. One of the things, if you're unfamiliar with what we did at the beginning of the project, we started out with the simple, here's some terrain, here's some rocks, here's some bushes, here's some trees. And part of, you start off slow just because we've got a frame rate that we need to handle. We also need to throw a bunch of players in there and still maintain a good frame rate. So the environment needs to perform really well on its own while still filling the world out. So one of the challenges there is to try and keep the poly count down, try and keep draw calls down, just rendering performance in general needs to be really good. To do that, we started out very, very simple, and then when I did a really quick pine forest, I started adding in like little branches and pine cones and sticks and twigs and other little clutter about the place, and it really kind of helped bring it more to life. So over the last couple of weeks, Dion has been working on some of the older assets, like the older forest assets, and creating like big logs and stumps that are kind of cracked and stuff. And these aren't always just little things. Sometimes they're just little things with no collision that you can walk right through. Sometimes they're much bigger things. And what we're trying to do, I've gotten some good lessons from Ben about gameplay, that we're trying to create things that like you can very clearly go under it, or you'll just walk up and over it. And those little, the different, when you play the game, you will see it as a log. From a gameplay perspective, I see it as a piece of collision that you're going to bump into, and that we need to make sure that you can slide over it easily and it doesn't get frustrating to play the game. So adding all these little extra pieces, like a stump on the ground, a big, broken at an angle tree trunk, or a big log that you might run under or something, all of those kind of change the gameplay from one area to the next. So we've just kind of continued on in that. I also noticed that I think probably because I did the pine forest fairly quickly, Dion is going to start working, Dion or I, depending on who gets to it, maybe this weekend, start looking at some more performance improvements with the pine trees, and that'll be coming on. And sometimes it can be like, oh, I took 12 triangles out of something. However, you multiply that times, say, 400 trees or something, and you can see where we start getting more and more polys adding up, as long as we keep thinking that way. It's just kind of a constant reminder. Animation. So one of the things we started working on last week with some torch animations, because Andrew's animation system is so much cooler, better, faster, stronger. There's a song here, isn't there? Work it. Stronger, better, faster, something like that. Someone's going to make a gif of me doing this now.
Please.
So we took an idle torch animation. So Sandra just did a guy standing there holding a torch. However, we have 3 realm idols right now that we tried to make indicative of how the Arthurians are, how the TDD are, and how we see the Vikings. So each one of them had a different kind of stance, the way they would just stand casually with little fidgets. We did an override using Andrew's animation system of the I should flip arms of the left arm, so that we actually just use this little piece in the idols, and we actually worked it into all 3 idols. I even pulled Mark over at one point, and I was like, "Look at this! Do you see anything?" And I didn't even tell him what we had done, because he could have thought, oh, it's all we animated as full body, or it's 2 parts, and it worked really well. So in those little cases, that tech has been extremely helpful. So now if you're holding a torch and you're in your travel stance, you can actually we just pair you up with all the other work that was done here, and then we just add this little piece in, which has been really handy. And we use that where applicable, and if it really doesn't look good, then we start thinking about other actual asset solutions. Scott also began working on smaller knockback animations. I'm going to put a link in today's update for the stream where I can see them running over there on the screen. Some smaller knockbacks, and we'll have a video up for... Hey, Scott?
Yeah.
Have you made that video live?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, so if you go to the YouTube channel, there's a new video that shows off kind of like a big knockback, and right now he's working on small knockbacks. So we'll have video for that later when we get back.
Is that the
down.
animation of your guy getting knocked back?
Yeah.
Or is that the animation of you knocking somebody back?
That's the animation of your guy getting knocked back. And in this case, I can see over on the screen, he's got smaller knockbacks, like, small step backs from pushed back, pushed from the back, so he gets knocked forward and then knocked left and right. We also put in a whole bunch of changes for pole arms that I think we were just talking about it before the stream. We need to look at all those and audit them. Lots of small tweaks and fixes. Animation is always kind of a busy place. UI icons. James finished off all the armor and weapon icons last week for the Beta 1 UI, and finished off the miscellaneous and crafting icons this week. Moving on, armor. If you look in last week's update, we had a couple of work in progress shots of helmets, and as usual, John does these things very fast, so he's got more helmets. And part of what we wanted to do was to give players just a few extra things to build that wouldn't impact the art team as heavily right now pre-beta 1, because we have a whole lot of like crafting and dyeing and visual concerns that we need to deal with once we get into beta 1 when we start working on those systems. So we don't want to go too wide with the number of assets we have to work on at that point. But we thought helmets would be a nice kind of fun thing so that players could make different looks. If you wanted to be like, hey, where'd you get that helmet? That kind of fun stuff. And the last item on here, Michelle completed the next pass of the health bar UI that we streamed a few weeks ago. So we'll have some new images of that in this update. And there's something else. Oh, no, we're going to have some VFX concepting for the box in there as well. So yeah, there's a whole lot of things. At some point we should start calling this the top 12-ish, because it's usually 12 to 15 now. Okay, a lot of things going on. I hope you guys have some good questions. We can do some questions for maybe the next 15 to 20 minutes. We got things to do.
All right, well, you just let me know, give them a 5-minute warning.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and, as you guys type up your questions, play the Q&A intro.
Okay.
Who are you? Turn the stove off. Did I hear really?
Do you like my shirt?
When are this?
Is this my spleen?
Now it is time to answer some questions.
Okay, folks, I forgot to remind you to ask art or tech questions, as we have here our lead environment artist, and Tim's a cool programmer dude, so Ask
Tim's
those
a
sorts
cool
of...
programmer, dude.
What's
I
your
don't know
official
about
title?
cool.
Engineering manager, I think, is what we're going with this week.
Tim's an engineering manager. So
Small
ask,
team, we all have lots of
ask
titles.
those kinds of questions.
What hat are we wearing this week?
But this is a good question. Forced Chaos asks, are Beta 1 folks getting in the test this weekend, if there is one?
Not yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to? I wasn't sure if you were going to elaborate.
No, I mean, so with the beta guys, we really like you to have a polished, solid, stable experience. And the last couple of weeks, we've just been getting in new big tech really fast. And so we want to put a couple of miles on that before we give it to you beta guys. And I know you're chomping at the bit to get in there, and we want you to have a good experience when you do. So we're not trying to hide anything from you. It's nothing nefarious. We want you to have a good experience, and that means waiting a little bit longer so that we can get the rough edges off of this stuff.
Yeah, I just said to Tim earlier, Monday we got to talk about, we not only have a lot of technically new things over this month, but new things only in the sense that some of the things that have come in later, the mid-month stuff will affect the previous 2 weeks. So there's a lot of things that need a lot of mileage on them, and we've had so many changes just week after week that getting all the bugs, fixes, and the certs, even though they're improvements, they always come with new adventures in Bugland. So we have a lot of work to go through probably next week. We'll see where we land next week.
Tyler, multiple people have asked, what is on your t-shirt?
Oh, it's a koi.
It's a fish yo.
It's a fish yo.
There you go.
There was actually a question in there at the beginning when I mentioned, hold off on questions, where someone was asking about kind of what does seamless mean, I think was kind of the gist of it.
Or just how seamless are we?
Yeah,
going
so
for?
Seamless in that there is no loading screen. Seamless in that there is a goal that there's no loading screen and there is no kind of, momentary hiccup in latency that you should not see that this is actually happening. Part of the idea here is if we have a very large world that you're just kind of actually traversing between invisible boundaries. As of yesterday, when we dropped it in and started testing in the office, and then we did a impromptu IT and alpha last night. I think what's happening right now is you cross the bridge, you get a hiccup. There's a very clear, obvious, hiccup where your character might jump
Especially
back.
the first time. The first time is worse.
And then after that, there's just a little blip.
Your guy sort of takes like a stutter step.
Yeah, I'd say like a quarter second, half a second, just this quick blip. And one of the things we're doing is every now and then someone would get like a loading screen just for a moment. You'd see a loading screen.
Yeah, that we're still working on, and that the goal is that goes away entirely. But like I said earlier, this is the first round of this, so some of you may see it was like a 1 frame, 2 frame loading screen that was literally just gone before you could actually even see what was on it.
So, like you said, we think this is very cool because just for a first pass, that's all that's happening.
Right.
We still have to layer in a lot of other pieces, but we're very proud of the people who we work with who worked on this in particular. I think mostly Colin.
Yeah.
So it's just a really cool thing, but the goal is you just are running through a big forest across a huge continent, go across one area to the next, maybe a sandbar is kind of like going across to another area, something like that, and you should just not even notice.
Where we're at right now, and you guys will see it on the test if you're IT or Alpha, is we have 2 islands that are joined by a bridge, and as you run across the bridge, we transition you between the 2 zones/servers. Where we would like to go to, where the discussion has been, and I'm not making any promises on this, but where we would like the tech to go is such that we could take one large contiguous landmass and chop it up into multiple smaller pieces that are all running on different hardware, different computers, different instances, different processes, and that would be completely transparent to you guys. That's where we would like to move with this, but as some of you guys have so aptly realized, that would mean that we've got to figure out how do I attack across them. Someone was asking if would both servers be running characters that are close to these seams. That's something that's still TBD even internally. but I expect there will be something along those lines.
From the YouTube chat, Lev Valine asks, for one of the recent tests, there was a minimum of how old your graphics card could not be. How will that relate to the final Beta 1 release / inclusion?
Wait, well, sorry, I was reading
For one of
two
the
things at
recent
once.
tests, there was a minimum of how old your graphics card could not be. How will that relate to the final Beta 1 release / inclusion?
So I don't want to talk about that too much because there's been some discussion between guys who are the client engineers that know more about GPUs and compatibilities and API layers for all of that stuff. What I will say is that during the Kickstarter, we said that we would attempt to support certain versions of DirectX, and we haven't gotten there yet with some of the older cards because we've been working on getting the feature set in and not entirely focused on compatibility right now. So all of that to say, I think the compatibility will get better than it is now, but I don't want to make any promises.
Yeah, we also, I don't want to give exact numbers, but go look on the YouTube channel or Twitch, look up Andrew and I think DirectX, and you can probably find, there's a video where he discusses the update we were making to what kind of the min spec is that we were supporting, and he goes into a bit of detail on it on that too.
So can one of you guys make a note just to track down that video and maybe drop it in YouTube chat or something later?
Max has the only pen over here.
Just keep it.
Keep going.
Okay. Well, just so you know, Tim, you are Roadrunner LXS's favorite.
My life
if
is
we're-
complete.
If they're allowed to have favorites. Okay.
You may
There's
have
a
to fight my
question.
daughter,
Yes.
though.
Deathwatch asks.
Also, just sorry, a couple people are talking about CPU. We're talking about graphics
ahead.
cards in this case in relation to the vid with Andrew. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Deathwatch asks, regarding the designs of armor and equipment for each of the realms, mainly regarding TDD, how does it focus, or does it focus, around fallen wood, etc., and Vikings' bones, etc.? I think I saw that somewhere.
Oh,
There are themes like that, but it's not those specific themes, right?
yeah. I mean, we've used those elements depending upon the different realms, and this is kind of a Michelle and Sandra can discuss this. They did a whole bunch of kind of art direction around the materials that might be more relevant from one realm to another, and ultimately we do need to make some distinctions so that when a guy is coming over the horizon at you, you get an idea of what realm he is based on the types of materials used in the armor. And this is something we'll go into in more depth when we get into crafting and how it relates to how the visuals on your armor. There's a lot of really sexy, fun things we're talking about doing there, and that actually leads back to why I was saying, and we're not trying to make too many pieces of weapon and armor pieces at this point, because there's a lot of there's a bit of unknown rework that'll have to happen at a later point when we go into integrating crafting and dyeing to those systems.
And specifically, like, I remember, like, one of the Viking armor sets we've got right now does have bones on it, but I think, like, the theme there was that, like, the Vikings, like, they're sort of keep what you kill kind of scavengers, and they build their armor out of whatever it is that they're hunting and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily bones, but it's more like composited of their sort of prizes, their trophies.
Yeah, just to clarify, folks, some of the answers have been kind of wide-ranging, so I'm kind of skipping over questions that seem like they've been answered. Dreege L asks, question for Tyler. Will the color actually in-game change? In your presentation the last day about how fast you could create an island, we had the editor and the client. I found the colors on the editor way more beautiful than in the client. Why is it so yellowish? And will it be like this at release, or more like the editor, deep, lovely green?
Oh my god, did you just open up so many variables and how... Yeah, this... I will try and answer this in a way that gives people an understanding of what's going on, what they may see. in one sense, what the lighting and everything that we see in the game is different than the way we see it in the editor. That's not ideal, but it is a consequence of focusing on getting us into beta versus making the editor super perfect. So right now, as of the most recent visual changes, the editor looks more saturated. The shadows are almost black in some cases. There's less ambient fill that's happening. However, you need to keep in mind that those colors then go over the internet. All of that gets compressed, spit back out on your monitor, and your monitor has its own color settings. This is why there's a whole industry around monitor calibrators that we use here in the office to try and get everybody on the same page. So literally your monitor could have a yellow tint and mine could have a green tint, and like I said, then it gets compressed and spit back out. So there's a huge gray area in what you see and what you may like in this respect. We also, George, one of the things he did was pave the way for later work on color grading. If you look up color grading, there's a bunch of articles on this. The gist of it is we can change the color tone of a scene and things like that. We can't do that yet, but it's one of the things we've talked about so that we could do things like, we can suffuse a whole scene with kind of a warmer color to kind of bring it together, or different times of day, spell effects.
I'll say one of the big things is we've got dynamic lighting in there based on like time of day and season and stuff like that. So even if the colors were identical between the editor and the client would be subject to a myriad of other variables.
Yeah.
The editor sort of looks at things in a vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, the reality, and then the other thing is quite often you'll see me change the time of day to, early morning or evening, simply because you get a lot of nice long cast shadows. It makes it easier for you guys to see, like I said, when we kind of, send this compressed from my little window to your window, I try and change the lighting to a nice kind of warm lighting. Our physically based rendering system is much more realistic and color and lighting accurate, so things get more washed out and whiter as we go to noon and then back down into the evening. So that's literally all the things that are in play here. So while you may see something that you really like, there's a reason why it does look the way it does. But when you said, I think you said warm or yellow or orange or something, like that's probably
yellow in the client and lush green in the editor.
Yeah, that might just be because of the time of day I've got set in the editor and the time of day I've got set in the client, and those are things that we will keep adjusting. We've got a whole lighting 2.0 planned and plenty of other things just to keep making the game pretty.
All right, a couple people in YouTube are kind of tag teaming a question here about whether
we have such a nice community.
Newer CPU cores, Ryzen and Rumor 99 would be a significant performance upgrade for CU, and i.e. how much of the optimization is focused on just reducing eye candy creep versus how much is focused on maxing our multi-threading to at least 50% of every single core.
This is, I want to say, an Andrew question. I also want to say,
well, I will tell you that George hates idle CPU.
yeah.
So a lot of our work has been focused on, like even the stuff today that we were talking about, like our terrain rethreading and stuff like that, has been focused on allowing all of the cores to be working all of the time and doing cool work while they're doing that. So that being said, two of the main factors of like how fast does my CPU go is how much each individual core, how much work each individual core is doing, and how many cores you have. Hopefully, we scale with both. So if you have the choice between going more CPU, more clock speed versus more cores, we'll take advantage of both.
Mentor, if you could focus your question about first pass and finished product. That's a little too broad, I think, to answer. So if you could focus that down a bit, then I will ask it. Let's see. Gravity H asks, I have a question. How are you?
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Actually, great. Recently Mark and I were having lunch the other day, and I was talking about how engaged I feel right now. So you have your own personal fatigues and your work fatigues, and like right now I'm just very engaged in just making the game better, keeping the team on track. I don't know, I'm feeling pretty good. Like I also had I think it was 3 weeks ago or maybe 2 weeks ago, I said something in the update that, we've been really busy and I'm really proud of the team. And what it was, I was saying something like, it's been another great week. And I said, I've been saying this a lot. I want to make sure that you guys understand I'm being honest with you when I say these things. I'm not just saying that to say it for some kind of PR reason. Like, we've had a lot of really great weeks. I know that we have a lot of people who would like to have us be in beta 1, as much as we would too. But there's a lot of things that we're just trying to get right. It's taken us longer than we wanted. We do apologize for that. But week after week after week, we just keep throwing in all this great stuff. We're also keeping up a great testing cadence. I know that between Tim, Brittany, and I, it takes up a lot of our time, but it also helps push the whole project forward, just as we keep the ball rolling on testing and adding features in. And we've just been doing a great job of it, and we just need to keep doing a great job of it. It's a work smart and hard.
Yeah, there was a while there where we had a bunch of really, really big systems in the air sort of all at the same time. Like, there was a big chunk of time where we got a little bit quiet while we were working on, like, the rehab stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was a big chunk of time where we were working on overhauling our animation to support rehab.
There was a whole kind of quiet area where we talked about this big work in progress, big system changes, and then I said, we got to start putting it together and make a game.
And so we got a bunch of these big systems in, and then it was like, there was this chunk of time where we were sort of dealing with the fallout of all these big systems and how they interacted with each other and all of that. And we've reached this point where we're back to just, banging stuff out really quick. We're getting lots of cool new tech in, we're getting lots of cool new gameplay in, we're getting lots of cool new art in, such that, as Tyler says, it actually takes up a lot of our time just keeping up with, okay, which of these things have we tested? What state are these different systems in?
Cross-dependencies everywhere.
What have we shown to the ITs? What have we shown to the alphas? What have we shown to the betas? Which of these systems is mature enough that we can move it on to the next group? And so I spend a lot of time just running around trying to chase and keep up with all of this stuff, but it's because so much stuff is happening so quick, and the game is just suddenly exploding from being a whole bunch of really cool tech into being a game.
Yeah.
And it's really refreshing to have this game that's just like seemingly manifesting overnight. I know from you guys who have been watching us work on this game for a while, it doesn't
feel like
seem
overnight.
like that.
But I mean,
it really just like you come in the next day and we've got in 4 or 5 new pieces of gear. We've got in a new gameplay system. There's some new cool networking tech that lets us scale up more or do things more transparently. And just every day there's this Gatling gun of new cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's
and
happening.
last week, I mean, it's also really fun just for the team. It starts feeling good when you start feeling like the game is coming together versus the systems to make the game. I think it was last week. We did a limited crafting test, and this was just using slash commands. We have one of our really wonderful backers on I'm blanking on the team, JB's team of UI guys, Mod Squad guys, is working on a really simple beta 1 version of the UI for crafting, and I think I grabbed a bunch of the artists, said, okay guys, we're gonna go do some crafting. So we all got together. I'm like, let's go meet at the keep in the center. We ran out. We found the supply carts that are there, which are temporary for later on when you can chop down a tree and things like that. We gathered up our resources. We spit out our voxes. Someone fell off a cliff and died, and we had to, where's your vox?
Hilarity ensued.
Yeah, and then we were making items, and we take those items, go over to a plot, build on a plot, find the bugs on the plot. Those little things start feeling like a game. And just like yesterday when we were on the bridge, and it was really simple. It was just running back and forth, and then of course someone starts trying to hit someone else, and then you're running around trying to hit each other, and then you find the next assert and you keep working on that. But those things start feeling like a game, and just adding the encumbrance in this week. That's a fun thing to start testing, where we can just say, okay, here, put a whole bunch of gear in your bag, take all the gear out, put it on the ground. I mean, each one of those things.
Steal somebody else's gear.
Steal somebody else's gear. It's.
John always has the
it's
best
fun.
pants.
What?
What?
John always have the best pants. So that's the long versions to get to talk about how we are.
Should we give the 5-minute warning?
No, I'm enjoying these questions.
Okay.
Unless where are you on fires? We refer to
Max is testing crafting.
Oh. So what we're referring to is
Usually with Friday, there's just
Yeah.
this stream of fires that I'm chasing around and attempting, sometimes more successfully than others, to douse.
yeah, it might be like, okay, are we good to test? No, something is totally not working, and it always manages to happen Friday. We'll do a few more questions.
Cool.
I like Lawtween's never asked Tyler a color question.
Tell me how you feel about blue.
Odilvik asks, will you have an in-game adaptive graphical frame rate where players can select to reduce, say, shadow details when the frame rate drops below a player-chosen level? Say 30.
Brittany has a comment in here. No joke, I once worked with an art director at a previous job who was colorblind. Michelle's actually colorblind. I don't know. Maybe you don't know
They
that.
were talking
Brittany.
about that.
Oh, okay.
In terms of doing all this adaptively, I don't know enough about how our rendering stuff works. I know we certainly want to support settings that will support a myriad of different power levels of GPUs and CPUs, such that you can dial back features and get more performance out of it. And we've already got some of that stuff in there. Save that question for when we've got a client engineer like George, Dave, or Andrew on stream.
Roadrunner LXS asks, for Beta 1, are there plans to have a new UI for ability creation, or will we have the same UI system currently in alpha?
I think there are hopes to have a new UI. I don't know if there are plans to have a new UI.
I think the reality is we need to make it a good experience. That's the goal. Right now, we are going to be putting things in for Beta 1 that are definitely going to change. We do want to make sure that it actually works and performs and does the things we need it to do. We've got other changes. Beta 1, just like Beta 2 or Alpha, everything's a work in progress. So we are going to try and make sure that everything works, and if we need to change it, we'll change it. It just may not happen, at the start of Beta, or it's kind of a hard question to answer. But we'll make it work.
Drigel asks, question for Tyler. Will you be in charge as well of the fauna design and art direction, and when do you think the team will start working on fauna? In which beta phase?
Fauna might come during Beta 1.
Not at the start, you mean?
Well, yeah. Things are fairly open and just kind of being creative here. I mean, anybody can make a sketch and go, hey, this is a cool creature, and we can all get on board with it. Typically, the way we do it is Michelle and or Sandra, they will work on any of the designs and come up with a bunch of ideas, and we'll, round table discuss everything and figure out which ones we like the most and iterate upon them, and then start figuring out, also technically, can we create this? What's the time involved? And there's a bit of tech that also needs to be done that'll kind of, these things need to move about, they need to understand the height map of the terrain and not walk through it or fall through it. There's quite a bit of pieces there that are not as important for Beta 1, so it will definitely be afterwards.
Deathwatch asks, will the TDD in the game, in the art sense, see different effects or look to their equipment based on the season?
That's two. When he said look, was it like how they visually see the world and the look of their gear? Is that what that was?
The look of their equipment, I think.
Yeah, we got to open that box. The look of the equipment, yeah, we've talked about, if you go back through, I think I picked a couple of pictures that are in the concept art on the gallery page that show like different fall court armors, and right now our TDD characters do have fall court armor, heavy armor. So we have talked about seasonal courts and different looks for that. So it is one of the things we plan. And then there was also like, do they see things differently? Is that what it was?
Just like effects on their armor is the question.
Yeah, I don't know how far I can go with effects on the
Yeah,
armor.
I mean, we've talked about like doing different, not armor that changes based on the season, but seasonally themed armor sets for the TDD.
That's the best clarification I can give right now. Seasonally themed.
Like I think the first set we did was the fall court armor.
Yeah. We did a bunch of ideas and did one set and we picked that set in particular not only because it was cool, but also afforded some technical and artistic challenges. Pretty much at this phase of art, we're hitting a lot of the how are we going to do this? Is this difficult to figure out? We're always trying to hit the hard things to do first. Why don't we get to the end of the questions, because we need to open this as well.
So give
I
our
forgot.
5-minute warning, and then we can do the box.
Sorry, do you mean we're ending the questions, or do you?
Well,
want
yeah,
to
you got
warning?
to do the 5-minute thing because we got to open this box as well.
Or
Okay,
do we
when
want to
you
give them the
say
5-minute
5-minute warning,
open the box, and then get the question?
We give them the 5-minute warning, open the box, and get the question.
Okay.
So we're gonna
Brandon
get your
Logas.
really good question.
We're gonna multi-thread this fucker.
Brandon Logue asks, are there any tools to download that can calibrate your PC to match City-State games?
No.
We'd have to
Yes,
release
no.
the
So-
LUT for our monitors.
So whenever we talk about the game and performance and 500 player battles, there's two things to keep in mind. Development is going to continue for a while. We still have to release the full game. The specs are going to go up and down for general testing as we go. We have a goal in mind, and where we're at right now, we have tons of runway. I don't want to oversell it too much. We have a lot of room for improvements in performance in many different ways that we haven't even hit yet. So it's kind of a changing target.
I think he was asking if it would be possible for him to calibrate his monitor to match our monitors so that he saw things the same way we do.
Oh, I thought it was my computer works with it.
No. We would just have to...
Technically, yes. It depends on the quality of the monitor you have. We use a Spider, SPYDER monitor calibrator. They're fairly inexpensive. They used to be way more expensive. And you could look into one of those. They have a fairly inexpensive version, and then it will color calibrate your monitor to give you the best actual output.
What I say, there's got to be like a color palette or something that he would need to match to, right? Like we'd have to publish
No, it
our
does
color
it.
palette.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like you install the software and you stick it on your screen and it does it for you, and you go ta-da, and then it reminds you constantly if you don't keep doing it.
Should we just open the box?
Okay.
All
So
right.
the really cool thing here, we'll include a picture in the update. Whoever has sent this to us wrote "Ship to the Heroes We Deserve" at City State Entertainment. So thank you very much for the kind words.
Wow.
Whoever has sent this, we really appreciate it, and we do feel the pressure to do a good job. So thanks. Not trying to say that as a negative. That's a daily thing. Got to do a good job.
Dial stress to 11.
Do we have any indication of who this is from?
I don't know anything about.
Sometimes
this
Max
person.
has hints.
Sometimes I get hints. Sometimes
Yay,
people
packing
send me
peanuts.
hints.
Oh, I was so hungry.
Ooh.
Oh my god, it smells interesting too. Let's see, what does this say?
Wait,
No, there was like a something came out of this.
Eco-friendly packing peanuts.
That's a pretty good angle.
I'm just reading this because I don't know if we should read it out loud.
Thank you to whoever sent this.
Okay, a little something to brighten the salt mines. Beeswax is healthy to burn and also releases negative ions that can help keep dust in check. All the scents, like I said, there was a smell that came out of this, made with 100% natural oils as well. We make all of these by hand. What is that? I don't know. It's like another language.
It's
There's a bee
backwards.
talking. Thanks so much for all your hard work and for being so patient and gracious with us rabid backers. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, a light made of awesome. And then, of course, this person ended it with, for the TDD, from Speely, a fan.
Cool.
So thank you.
I got your joke, but I'm not sure we can say it on stream.
Thank you very much, Speely. Extremely kind words. I mean,
What's in the box?
Packing peanuts.
I don't know.
A box.
Another box.
I have a feeling it's oils or candles. It's gonna get sexy in here. Productivity goes down. What happened? We all got really relaxed.
I think you can smell it from there too.
Wow.
Does that smell
This
like
is
a
really...
Ooh. I can smell that. from
So
over
here, I'll show.
Just imagine you guys have smell-o-vision.
Yeah,
It smells like lavender or something?
it's a whole bunch of things. So Big Dipper Waxworks.
Ooh, is it
100%
candles?
beeswax and pure essential oils tin sampler. All natural beeswax aromatherapy candles. Oh, my wife is gonna be so. These things are awesome. You guys, I'm assuming, made this all by
Perfect
hand,
gift
like
for
it said.
software developers. Scented candles.
No, this is. Look at all. There's a whole bunch of these little things. There's. I mean, geez. Trying to we got other things we got to do. Look at all this awesome stuff. Oh, look at this. There's even matches in here. That's what you need us kids to have. There's more. Orange and eucalyptus aromatherapy beeswax candle. Sage and verbena. Lavender and frankincense.
There's lavender.
There's more. Big Dipper Waxworks mystery gift, or it's Ritz crackers.
I do like crackers.
I might as well open one of these. Beeswax, pure and natural, 100% beeswax, all natural candle. So, wow, thank you so much. This makes my job really awesome, and I probably shouldn't tell my wife about this, who's an accountant. She'll just be like, oh, you are so lucky. Thank you very, very, very... I can't tell where the camera is.
You're in frame.
Very, 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 very much. This is very much
Fine.
appreciated. I can't imagine all the work that went into just all this. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, folks. Do you want to say a note about testing this weekend?
Right now we are headed towards IT and Alpha based off the impromptu last night. This will be testing the 2 islands, going back and forth. We put plots and...
There's plots, crafting, seamless zone transitions, and then a bunch of the hidden stuff that hopefully you guys won't need to know happened, like the terrain rethreading and the Inity refactoring.
So probably an IT and Alpha test, and look for an email.
On Fledgling.
And it'll probably be on Fledgling. So look for an email and for the update email.
This is so cool. Thank you very much again.
And thank you very much to...
There's another one in here I missed.
Wow. All right, well, thank you very much,
Thanks,
Speedy,
man.
and thank you all for asking questions, etc. We will see you later.
Jeez, this is really nice.